This week on Previous World Weekly, we unpack a new fan theory about Supreme Leader Snoke, what life lessons we learned from comic books, and what type of bender you'd want to be. Strap in, because we're about to go off on a bender. It's all happening right now on Previous World Weekly.
What's up, Previews World? It is Wednesday. It is New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for Previews World Weekly. And my hair has grown so much that my baseball cap is down to one rung. And I already had a big head, so...
Oh man, the wheels are coming off.
Quarantine life. And you are...
Hi guys, I'm Ashton, aka the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, and I don't have any hair crisis at the moment.
Thank God. Your hair is already like out there. Like you have a lot of hair, so...
I know.
So mine just goes out and yours doesn't go down. Chuck, what's up, Chuck? Yeah, let's talk some comics, man. Actually, before we get into comics, we're going to tackle Ashton's favorite and least favorite subject in the world. Star Wars. Right. You saw something this weekend that you shared with me. You want to share with the rest of the class?
I do. Okay, so there is a new fan theory going around on Reddit, of course, Reddit, about like the true origins of Supreme Leader Snoke, or maybe like a more satisfying theory about his origins, because it's in The Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine kind of dismisses it and just says like, oh, I made Snoke. But this new theory kind of backtracks on that and says that Snoke basically absorbed the life force of the father. So to give a little more context around that, there's a set of episodes in the Clone Wars series that unpacks kind of like a figurative and literal explanation of what it means for the Force to be balanced. And basically there's a father, a son, and a daughter. And so the son represents like the dark side of the Force, so the daughter represents the light side of the Force, and the father balances them. And of course, the father makes the mistake of asking Anakin to keep balance while he goes to do something else. Anakin murders the son, the dark side of it, because what else is Anakin but a murderer? That's neither here nor there.
Yeah. And
so then basically the theory posits that Snoke was the son, was the dark side equation of the Force, and so then eventually the father and the daughter die as well. And so the theory says that Snoke, as the son, absorbs the remaining life force of the father, of the balancing act of it, and then Palpatine just kind of like locates him wherever he would have been in the known universe and uses that life force to create clones and harness like the negative energy of the dark side of the Force to do a thing.
So let me make sure I got this right. So Palpatine absorbed the already absorbed life force of Snoke. So
and cloned
him. So who did Snoke absorb the life force from specifically? Are they saying Anakin?
No, they're saying that Snoke was the son, so the physical manifestation of the dark side. And when the father died, he absorbed the father's life force.
So we don't know who Snoke's father is. Is that what we're saying here?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Man, that's a lot of hoops to jump through to get there. You got to be honest with you there.
Right. You know what, too? Like, I was reading this article, I think it was on Inverse, and the entire time they're writing this article, they're explaining it, and they would, like, explain a chunk, and then the next paragraph would be like, I know this is far-fetched, but continues explanation. And then another paragraph would be like, now you have to suspend disbelief, but, and it's like, they're going through this whole thing all the while being like, this isn't possible at all, but believe us anyway.
Oh my God. I mean, I have some strong feelings about fan theories, but I feel like when you leave a plot chasm, the way that Rise of Skywalker did, sorry, not sorry, it kind of forces people, no pun intended, to kind of come up with their own theories. The best one I've heard actually was that Snoke, and I actually think this actually is so obvious that it pains me that they didn't use this, is that Snoke is a failed clone of Palpatine. Like,
oh, I like that.
See, there you go. Chuck agrees with me. Snoke was a failed clone. That theory is I like the best. And I've heard that quite a few times, and I've always kind of been of the attitude like, I actually might have heard that theory before I saw the movie. So I actually went to the movie thinking that's what the case was going to be, but guess not. I don't know. I guess the world had other plans.
I gotta be honest. Like, I would have been I would have been okay with like, I'm gonna rant for like a quick second. I'm gonna keep it short.
Go for
I
it.
would have been okay with literally any like Snoke backstory, like at all, had it been like the father, daughter, son thing, had it been like the failed clone of Palpatine. I would have been okay with anything had there been one. Like that's my whole thing with Snoke is like he just shows up. No one explains who he is or where he comes from. They never circle back to doing that. And then he dies unceremoniously after they made a big deal about it in The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Actually, Johnny, I don't know if Johnny's co-signing he doesn't like fan theories or not, but he's saying that the internet is full of weird fan theories, i.e. the Willy Wonka Snowpiercer theory, which I've never heard of. But apparently people going around saying that Willy Wonka and Snowpiercer are in the same universe. I mean, that's interesting. I'm going to give you that. But I don't remember Snowpiercer that well. I know a lot of people love that movie. I saw it in the theater. I actually did not think it was that great, to be honest. But I also have not read the comic it's based on.
Right.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up, Johnny. That's amazing. Also, we're gonna jump back to Star Wars in a second because we're not done with Star Wars just yet. But I wanted to point out that there's this book called The Last Days of Crime, originally released by Radical. Now Image Comics, I think, has the publishing rights to it, and it just so happens that Last Days of Crime got a film adaptation, or movie adaptation, I should say. Nobody shoots on film anymore. That went straight to Netflix this past weekend, I think it was. And I remember hearing about it. I've never read it's a Rick Remender book, which actually doesn't explain why I've never read it, because I love Rick Remender. He writes Deadly Class, of course, and Uncanny X-Force, two things that I've talked a lot about on this show. But it's gotten a lot of attention for getting a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty aggressive, I want to say. And I got to be honest with you, Ashton. I don't know about you, but me personally, I'm at a point now with Rotten Tomatoes where if Rotten Tomatoes hates it, I probably like it. And the more Rotten Tomatoes hates it, the more I like it.
I feel like Rotten Tomatoes is so hit and miss because it's averaging like what people thought against what critics thought, and that's a mess. There's way too many opinions involved, so there's no way to know for sure.
Right. Well, I remember, I think it was because of the Captain Marvel thing, because there was like such a disparity between the fans and the critics. Like, if I remember correctly, they made a distinction at that time between the audience score and the critic score, and it's been like this not to use the same word again, but this chasm of a difference, between the two ever since then. And it's been that way for a while now. And I remember and I also have a theory. This is a little theory that I'm just going to throw out here. Speaking of theories, that because if you pay attention, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by a bunch of studios, like a handful of studios own Rotten Tomatoes, right? And I think one of them is Time Warner, if I remember correctly, and Universal. I feel like the fix is in for Netflix. And I think that historically, Netflix movies have gotten buried. Netflix original movies have gotten buried on Rotten Tomatoes. And I bring that up because Bright, with Will Smith, which actually turned out to be a fun movie, was like just blasted by the critics on there. So I don't think I can trust Rotten Tomatoes. I'm just saying. I say all that to say, go watch The Last Days of Crime. Make up your own mind. It's from the director of Taken. Like, check it out. See if you like it. It's based on a Rick Remender comic, and you should definitely check out the comic. And actually, I'm going to do the same because that's one of Rick Remender's books that I have not read yet. So, and Greg Tocchini, who's actually, I hope I said his last name right, who's actually another artist from Uncanny X-Force. So, definitely check that out. Last but not least, Ashton, before we move on here. Can we just traumatize the rest of our audience as we've been traumatized by female Skywalker? Now, look, before people get on me about this, because I know this can be a touchy subject, all right? I'm just going to say it's less that it's a female Skywalker and more that it's an uncanny valley digital manipulation of something that is not real. Right. And it weirds me out so much. And I don't know. I'm gonna let you talk, Ashton. What do you think of female Luke Skywalker?
I cringed. The first one looks so much like a weird, like young Mary Kate Olsen or Ashley Olsen, both together.
It does. You're absolutely right about that. Wow, you're absolutely right about that. Wow.
I mean, the makeup looks good. Whoever edited these, knocked it out of the park with the makeup and the eyelashes.
You're right. I mean, they didn't. I mean, did they have to give her lipstick? I mean, I don't know, but whatever.
I've got to be
Okay.
fabulous.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. You know what? I was trying to be an ally here, but apparently I'm on the wrong side of this one. Like, you got to be fabulous, Gordon Ashton.
Absolutely. Gotta save
So,
the universe, gotta do it with lipstick and commit all the way.
hey, you know what? I watched a video the other day of a female kickboxer, like beating the holy hell out of a boxing bag in heels. So you know what?
Ooh,
Sometimes you got to be fabulous. Why the heck not? On that note,
right?
on that note, time for what's at comic shops. Ashley and I are going to give you our picks this week, and we're also going to show you some of the other stuff that has hit comic shops this week as well. Let's go. So, Ashton, I'm going to tag you in. I'm going to let you go first here. What is your pick this week from the new release rack?
I'm gonna shock everybody and pick Undiscovered Country.
Hey, you know what? Your consistency means the book is good. And I know a lot of titles sometimes they get to a certain issue and things just don't pan out and you just drop them. So, hey, if you like Undiscovered Country still, more to you. Why not? That's a recommend. So, what do you love about Undiscovered Country?
So I'm actually particularly excited for number 6 is out today. And I
Mhm.
also missed number 5. It came out right before the stay-at-home order. So, I mean, I'll be getting 2, which is great. But so with number 6, it's kind of concluding the first story arc where they're in the Destiny Man zone inside of this futuristic dystopian isolationist America. And so they finally found this key that they need to basically unlock a gate to the next zone. They're leaving this zone, headed to the next zone, with the Destiny Man, of course, hot on their heels. And so as they leave this Destiny Man zone and enter the next one, there's a lot of questions lingering about who will survive, who will make decisions to intentionally stay behind, like what does that mean for our group? And then beyond that, as they go deeper into America, they'll be uncovering, why this particular group of people have been brought together to be the first people to go into America in over 30 years, And if it wasn't, in fact, to get the vaccine as was originally posited, then why was it that? And what does that mean for the future of the world and the future of the country? So
Okay.
they're on a little bit of a self-discovery journey at the moment, as well as like a physical journey. And the last thing I want to point out is number 6 is the end of the arc. So next month when number 7 comes out, that'll be starting kind of a new arc, a new storyline. So that'll be a good jumping on point if you don't, feel compelled to go back and read 1 through 6.
Okay, but you would recommend go ahead back and read 1 through 6, I'm
100%.
assuming.
100%.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Nice. Oh, wait. Yeah. Chuck here. He's saying, I've been wanting to check out Undiscovered Country. Well, you just ran out of excuses, my friend, because are you going to tell that face no? Are you going to tell Ashton that she's wrong? I was going. I was going more for like badass tough, but that works too. The finger guns and the smiling that works too. My pick this week is also kind of not a surprise. It's not X-Men because I know I always pick X-Men, but the other thing I pick a lot often is Conan. And so look, guys, I've had this copy of Conan since I was a kid. All right. I'm a fan of Conan the Barbarian, and it just so happens that Ablaze Comics, in a bit of a twist, also has access to the Conan the Barbarian license. Okay, so look, that Marvel currently has a Conan the Barbarian license, and they're implementing him in actually fun and cool ways into the Marvel universe. But for those of you who are purists, for those of you who aren't into that, right? Because I know some people are freaking out when Marvel said we're going to integrate him in the continuity. We have a series that's just for you, and it's actually by Ablaze Comics. It's called, I think to distinguish it, the Cimmerian Red Nails. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's an alternative, and the thing that they're promising here is it's unrestrained, violent, and sexual. So I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm here for some Cimmerian sexual healing. So let's see what the that sounded weird. Let's see I'm curious to see what Ablaze is doing. And like this is actually the second series they've done in a pretty short amount of time. They had another series previously that was also in the Cimmerian line. So definitely check both of those books out. And yeah, if you want some uncut Conan, this is the book for you. So definitely check that out. Also, let's talk about some big ticket items this week, Ashton. So Batman: The Adventures Continues, right, is being released from DC Comics, aka the Distinguished Competition, and they have been they're reviving Batman the Animated Series, which is actually pretty cool because they're doing it in comic book form, and they're bringing back some of the heavy hitters from the animated series on top of that. Look, I was a '90s kid. Um, I grew up on Batman the Animated Series, in some ways, but not entirely. It shaped my perspective of Batman to the point that I almost have this brain fart when people do other things with Batman that don't line up with the Batman the Animated Series. And I know a lot of people are. I think a lot of people actually value, love, and favor that series over a lot of the interpretations of Batman, and for good reason, because it's kind of quintessential pure Batman. Like, it's probably the purest form of Batman you'll get in any other media. So Batman: The Adventures Continues is out this week, #1. Definitely check that out. And also, let me check my notes here. Oh, you know what? I already know what we're going to do. Back to Come Back, right? So this is more for next week, not this week. But of course, we're running a campaign called Back to Come Back, where we want you guys to support your local comic shop. And it just so happens that we're not alone. Not only are retailers involved in this, not only is your local comic shop involved in this, but also publishers are involved in this, of course. And one of those publishers is Image Comics. And they're dropping 2 Jeff Lemire books next week, one being Gideon Falls and one being Family Tree, that will have on the cover, emblazoned on the cover, the Back the Comeback stamp. So if you're looking for something new and exciting, and actually these are going to be unique, because you're not going to see these versions of these books are going to kind of like are marking a particular area in time where, I mean, point blank, the industry had to struggle, and the industry is, they're stamping their own comeback. They're calling it now that they're going to make a major comeback, and they're stamping it not only like verbally, but they're also doing it on the covers of their comics. So definitely keep an eye out for Family Tree and Gideon Falls with the Back the Comeback stamp next week, and support your local comic shop, of course. So on that note, we got a trailer, don't we? And this one is. Yeah, and this one is from Viz Media. This is actually, I'm having brain farts today. Spy Family from Viz. Sorry. Check out the trailer, and hopefully my brain will go back into my head when we come back. I swear, you never know what you're going to get with these manga trailers sometimes. Like, it started off so sinister, and then it was like, yeah, it just got into like this kind of like this goofy sort of thing. So, I mean, but that's interesting. Like the premise behind this, because I don't know if you really got that from necessarily reading looking at the trailer, is basically a book about a family of spies. In particular, this #1 spy who's going to take on his most complicated mission yet, which is domestication. So there's going to be some action, but it's also a comedy, clearly, and it's coming from Viz Media, so definitely check that out. But now it's time for everybody's favorite. I think it's everybody's favorite. Am I wrong about that, Ashton? Is everybody's favorite, you think?
I think it is my favorite.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite too, and I think a lot of people look forward to this because we feature your answers to one of our questions. Let's dive on in. Ashton's going to take it away with Social Swamp.
Okay, so spawning out of a conversation we had last week about Superman and the ideals he brings to you, we asked you guys to tell us what is the most important, useful life lesson or principle that you've learned from a comic book that you carry with you, and we are going to unpack some of your answers now. So Shannon said, IDW Transformers more than meets the eye. Drift tells Ratchet to lock himself in the medical bay to protect the patients and says, my faith will protect me, my faith and my sword. To which Ratchet replies, your faith, your sword, and your friend. We do this together. True friendship is an unstoppable force.
Nice. Actually, a pretty recent one, too. That's pretty good.
Spencer said, X-Men, God loves, man kills. An incredible story that still holds power to this day. Christine said, watching my two little girls parrot lines about friendship from DC superhero girls is pretty amazing. So thanks to Shay Fontana for those lessons. Sorry. Robert said, the amount of social and emotional issues that manga series One Piece has touched on or brought up during its run is something to think about, especially in these past couple of years. Patrick said, Batman, War and Crime.
Yeah.
Anthony said, V, ideas are bulletproof.
Nice. A little quote from V for Vendetta. Actually, I want to go back to the War and Crime one because I actually have an axe to grind a little bit. So, first of all, this is a fantastic story, and if I remember correctly, this story is about a kid who also saw his parents murdered in front of him, and has decided that the best route for him is more of an immediate revenge. And so Bruce Wayne, who's also seen Batman, who's also seen his parents murdered in front of him, actually is kind of taken aback by this because he's looking at what he could have been. And then they end up having like this kind of like quiet bonding moment halfway through, like towards the climax of the story, because they both experienced, truthfully, they both experienced a trauma, and they both had to get through it together, or separately in some cases. And also, it's great Alex Ross art. Like, you can't go wrong with Alex Ross, right? But no, I saw something this past weekend actually that just truthfully just irked me to no end on Twitter. Not surprising, and I keep telling myself I need to limit my Twitter time because Twitter loves to get under your skin. But someone, I'm not going to say who, did this post about how comics are in the future because of the Black Lives Matter movement, but more specifically because of police aggression towards the Black Lives Matter movement, that comics are going to have to address crime differently and in a more sympathetic light and in broader ways. And he kept using these examples of, like, superheroes swooping in to stop bank robbers, and superheroes swooping in to like stop insane mental patients and all this other stuff. And I'm reading this, and immediately my first thought was, when's the last time you read a comic book, dude? Like, seriously, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to attack him too much, but at the same time, I'm just sort of like, comics have always done this. Like, they've been doing this for a very long time. I would argue at least since the 60s, comics have been doing this. This idea that there are various ways to deal with a problem, and not all of them involve punching people, hitting people, and that the concept of justice, crime, and punishment is malleable, and like superheroes have to attack those things in different ways all the time. And I thought it was really interesting that I saw that statement, and then over the weekend, and then like we ended up like collating responses to our social swamp this week, and people are giving us. I truthfully think, and maybe I'm biased about this, but personally, I think they're proving my point that comics embody all these different lessons that don't just involve punching and kicking, and smacking around bad guys. So I was actually happy to see that. And I was actually going to ask you, Ash, if you had any feedback on this particular subject of life lessons in comics, or maybe if you even had one yourself.
I do. It feels a little anticlimactic coming now after everything that you just said.
Oh, sorry.
Mine is, of course, from Archie.
No, that's fine. Hey, why not?
It comes from, I don't know what issue, it's somewhere in this first trade of the relaunched Archie from Mark Waid. And I've said this before, and I'll say it forever. Part of what I really like about Mark Waid's run on Archie is that I think he does a really good job of capturing the teenagers and what matters to them and how you would react to things. Sometimes, like young adult action kind of get lost in the fray. So, there's the story arc kind of this first trade is about, Archie and Betty breaking up and this thing called the lipstick incident. And so Archie and Betty had been together for basically ever. And at some point, these girls in high school kind of convince her that she needs to be more, because she's always been a tomboy. So they convince her she needs to be girly. She needs to wear makeup. She needs to wear dresses. She needs to dress up for Archie. She needs to do all of this and that. So she does all of that, and they go on a date, and it doesn't go well. As you can see, she like swipes some lipstick across Archie's face. And so what Archie tells her is, he's like, I liked you the way you were before. You don't need to do all of this for me. This isn't you. And, his delivery leaves a lot to be desired, but the message is certainly there. And it's actually something I find myself thinking about a lot. It is so easy to fit yourself into somebody else's mold of what you should be, or what is, the standard, or what is likable, or what will get you certain things. It's so easy to do that, but that's not what you're meant to do. Like, you're meant to be your own person, and you should be your own person, and you should, unapologetically be your own person. I know that's easier said than done. I get that, but I think that's what he's trying to tell her here. Is like, you being you is enough. You don't need to be somebody else.
Yeah. No, and I think that, that's a lesson echoed in stuff like the X-Men. It's echoed in, like, so many other titles too. Like, I think that I don't know. I think comics don't get enough respect or love for, like, being as thoughtful as they can be, and as thoughtful as they have been in the past. Like, I think, truthfully, I'd even argue maybe more thoughtful than Hollywood is in a lot of cases. Like, the television are. Like, I kind of a lot of times feel like, I won't say always, but, like, I feel like a lot of times movies and television tend to put their foot all the way into a message, and still come out the other end of it with the wrong message. Like, or a lot of times it just kind of feels like they're ticking a box to fulfill some sort of demographic so that we can't call them sexist or racist or any of those things. But comics have a very long track record of being forward thinking, I think, is probably the best term that I'll use. Yeah. So yeah, I actually appreciate that. And it's across everything. It's not just superheroes, of course. Like, of course I'm gonna lean on the side of superheroes, but as you just showed us, it's an Archie, you know what I mean? Like, and I remember even reading the old digest books and some of, like, the goofy little, like, short stories that they used to do back in the day when I was a kid, and there were lessons in those stories as well, you know what I mean? So yeah, comics are very forward thinking, and I think that the mainstream media need to back off a little bit. You know what I mean? Speaking of throwing up those fists, right? We had a poll last week, and this poll was you. So what is this one? You want to explain to the world what's going on here?
I do. I am deep in this Avatar rewatch, like obsessively so. I might definitely have a crush on Prince Zuko. Anyway.
Okay.
So I asked you guys last week if you could be a particular bender. So one of the four benders: airbender, waterbender, firebender, earthbender. Which one would you pick? You're not the Avatar. You can't have all four. You got to settle on one. And so here, I tried to pit them against each other, kind of how they're diametrically opposed, so water against fire and then air against earth. And here, water won out, which I was very surprised to see.
I'm very surprised by that too. Like, yeah, that says something to people not wanting to be, I guess, a free comic book. We give Free Comic Book Day a lot of flack, but maybe they're not as destructive as we think they are.
Apparently not. And then here, this one was a little closer, but Earth won out.
Okay, wow.
Of course.
Right. I like,
Take back what you said. Take back what you said. Free Comic Book Day is a hot mess.
But that's why we love Free Comic Book Day, because they give us such great fodder for this show.
Right.
And particularly, we're talking about the Facebook page, because the Facebook page is just like you never know what kind of answer you're going to get. It's absolutely amazing. Actually, I'm going to point out today, and we're gonna get the results of it next week. But today, I did one that I'm particularly proud of, which is Dr. Doom versus Batman. And people love to go like, well, if Batman had prep time, he'd be able to beat this person. All right, okay. But Dr. Doom with prep time is just as lethal as Batman, probably more so because Batman won't kill. So I want to know what you guys think. Go to the Free Comic Book Day Facebook page, or go to the PREVIEWSworld Facebook page, or either of our Twitters, and cast your vote, because I'm salivating to know what the outcome is. And if it's Batman, you're wrong.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So that's almost it for us. But we do have a comic shop shout out we're going to do. So who is the comic shop shout out this week?
Yeah, so the comic shop shout out this week goes to Mind's Eye Comics in Burnsville, Minnesota. We want to give them a little extra love since there have been protests going on. Their shop, I believe you had said, may have been a victim of looting, Troy.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we want to give them a little extra love and shout them out. If they have, if they have a GoFundMe? I should have asked this beforehand instead of lies.
Instead of lies. Actually, I'm not sure they have a GoFundMe. I don't think they had a GoFundMe. I think they were just celebrating that they were reopening. So,
okay. Well, they're reopened. We want to show them extra love. So if you are in that area of Minnesota, in the Burnsville area, stop by, see them, purchase something if you can, or just tell them that you love them. And in a similar vein, if you want to have us feature your shop on the show, find us on social media, use the hashtag #BackTheComeback, and tag your shop if they have a page. If not, just shout them out, and we will find them and spotlight them on the show.
There you go. And also, we did a shout out last week to Heidi Ho Comics, and it turns out that they did have a GoFundMe, and they got fully supported. So, like, they have enough money to kind of fix up their store and hopefully get up and running soon. So, shout out to them. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also, we mentioned Back to Comeback earlier in the show. Back to Comeback is something that's going to be ongoing because, there's been a lot of setbacks just in general, I think personally for a lot of people, but also for comic shops in 2020. And so I just wanted to point out that we're actually doing the Back the Comeback campaign on social media. So definitely shout out your comic shop. Definitely let them know that you love them, that you support them by using the hashtag Back the Comeback, and more importantly, patronize them. Like, when I say patronize, I don't mean like talk down to them. But go to your local comic shop and purchase some stuff if you can, if it's safe, if they are open right now, and shoot a little picture of it and like use a hashtag. Let us know that you're showing them some love. Also, in the same vein of Back to Comeback, we're doing an auction. Or more specifically, Diamond International Galleries is doing an auction right now starting July 4th for Back to Comeback. And they have two, what I would consider major big ticket items. One is an original Frank Cho, not drawing, but painting. And for the Magic the Gathering fans out there, there's an uncut beta press sheet for Magic the Gathering as well that's also available. So definitely check that out. July 4th, cast your bid and participate in if I remember correctly, the winnings, I guess I should say, or the money there will be going to charity. So definitely participate and enjoy and check it out. And sorry, I got totally distracted by the side chat with Johnny and Ashton.
Sorry.
Anything else we should be shouting out this week, Ashton, before we move on, before we ship out of here?
Yes, sir. So keep an ear to the ground on Free Comic Book Day, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are working on our plans. We are rescheduling the event. It is not canceled. We are going to do it. We want to get you free books. So we have an announcement forthcoming in the next couple of weeks. That will be your place to find it on those social media pages, or also, of course, on the Free Comic Book Day official website.
Headset went out for a second there. And you're talking specifically about Free Comic Book Day, right?
Correct.
All right, cool. Because the joke is people often ask us, when is Free Comic Book Day? And we're like, we're working on it, guys. I think in a lot of cases, I just want to clarify for some people here, a lot of the decisions that have been made in the last 2 or 3 months now since the quarantine started have been for the safety of you, for the safety of the retailers, and for the safety of us who work for this organization, for this company. So I see a lot of people speculating about why things have gone the way that they have for comics. It's truthfully, it's because this is an unprecedented time, and we want everybody to be safe, and we don't want to put anybody at risk because we do it for the love of the game. Like, truthfully, I mean, that's why we read comics. We do it because we love comics. So it would really suck to do it for any other reason than that. On that note, check us out on Quiplash every Tuesday and Thursday. We had a fun one yesterday that definitely went off the rails, and maybe some inappropriate things were said. But check us every Tuesday and Thursday for game night, previews game night, and Quiplash at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and lest I forget, definitely check out Comic Talk, which is going to be Anamia and Ashton every single week. And this week, I think we have two Top Cow bigwigs coming in. We got Henry Barajas, I think I can announce this right now, and Matt Hawkins, who are going to sit down with Ashton and Anamia and talk some comics. So definitely check that out. That's a lot of fun. And that's it for Previews World Weekly, guys. I am one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood.
And we will see you guys at the Spinner Rack. Catch you later.
Woo-hoo.